So our next presenter is BL Allison from Florida. And you know, it just so happened that into the Morya Federation these last couple of years came some people who have real astrological ability. So both Francis and BL were among them. And I thought, well, and they have very different angles on things. So I thought to invite them both to make presentations. And BL, I guess I'm just going to let you say what it's all about because, yeah, okay. Welcome.
Am I on?
Does she have a?
Hello? I do.
You do? Okay. No, you're on.
There we go. Now I think I can hear me echoing. Was it okay if I close that, Francis? Okay, I'm going to talk about the rays and the chakras and how they're connected. See if I can, there we go. First though, I want to talk a little bit about the different way that we use the crosses, okay? We've heard a lot about them so far, and this was a mode of activity. This is, are we on the mutable cross? Are we ordinary? Have we moved to the fixed cross of the disciple? That's a mode of activity, and it has nothing really to do with the way that the energies are in your chart. Then, of course, the chart itself can have everybody's got all 12 signs. Some of them are more represented than others, but they're all there. And you can actually have configurations of the crosses, and that's what I'm going to talk about, the second one, the configurations and stuff that we have. Okay, this is how rays 2 and 6 interact together. Where's that little pointer thing at? You can see that they work real well together, but that they're actually two different entities. You've got the Virgo-Pisces axis right here that is included in both of them. And then you've got the 6th ray, which is Virgo, Pisces, and Sagittarius. And basically that's a T-square, and a T-square has a focus. And the focus is the missing point, which is directly opposite, and it's in Gemini. Then you've got the 2nd ray, which is the Virgo-Pisces axis again, going down to Gemini, and it's got the focus that goes up to Sagittarius, okay? The ray 6 produces the necessary changes for evolving consciousness through Gemini. That's the one that's missing. That's the one that you're looking for, okay? And Gemini is the intermediary between the soul and the body. It's the recognition of duality. Ray 2 is the opposing one, where you're looking for Sag. This is the quest for wisdom and the one-pointed arrow of the mind that you find with Sagittarius, but that's missing with the T-square. But when they're working together, when you've got all 4 points, then they can work together with that synergy that you see here in the cross. And this is one of the methods that we use eventually through time and lots of incarnations of raising from the 6th ray to the 2nd ray, from a ray of attribute to a ray of aspect. Oops. Which, whatever. This is the 5th cross. The fixed cross with the 4th and 5th rays. This is nowhere near as cute and nice and pristine as the other one was, is it? This one here, you do have the fixed cross. It's kind of hard to see here, but you've got the Taurus-Scorpio axis there in blue, and then you've got the Leo-Aquarius axis, but they're not working together. Nobody said the fixed cross was going to be easy, did they? What you've got is, both of them work through Sagittarius. Okay? What you've got is the Leo-Aquarius axis working through Sagittarius in favorable, friendly aspects. So it's got an affinity. Sagittarius has an affinity with Aquarius and Leo in the work that they're going to be doing. It's trine Leo and it's sextile Aquarius. So that part, when you get to it, is going to be a little bit easier. Not so with the Taurus Scorpio. There you've got an inconjunct. You do have a semi-sextile. That's kind of neighbors who don't understand each other, but they're friendly anyway. But that's what you've got with this open, fixed cross here. What we also see, both of these are rays of attribute, and they have to eventually move up to rays of aspect. And they both work towards the first ray. Coordination is not my strong point. And here we've got the third and seventh rays working together again. They look just as pretty as the mutable cross. You've got the Cancer, Capricorn axis that they share. The third ray is Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn. The missing point, the focus of this one, is Aries. The opposite is true. The seventh one is Cancer, Capricorn, and Aries, and the focus on that is Libra. So with ray 7, you're looking for the balance of the pairs of opposites, the active expression of the right values and right human relations. And with ray 3, you're looking for the will or power of Aries, expressing through strong mental activity, creative will, ideas, until you confuse these axes, synthesis on the physical plane, and mental bodies in preparation for balancing the personality and the soul. And again, just like the other ones, this helps raise the seventh ray up to the third ray. Ceremonial order and magic transmute knowledge and experience into active intelligence. Let's look at this in somebody's chart. What we've got here is a fixed cross, very prominent in this chart, with his ascendant-descendant axis and his nadir midheaven plus the nodes, north node at the midheaven. This, for those of you who might know him, is Francis's chart. Let's look at Venus, his solar angel, down there in Capricorn. This is a yod, two inconjuncts, and a sextile there. This is a yod configuration, the pink one, which is called the hand of God. It doesn't actually impact. What it does is it hits his Saturn, and with yods you use real narrow orbs, but that Saturn is conjunct his ascendant, and that brings the ascendant into play. So it takes his solar angel in his hand of God, and it puts it as his ascendant, which, let's just pretend like this isn't a phoenix, and like it's a solar angel, his solar angel in Capricorn, bringing it down to earth for us. That's what his artwork does. And this is where he gets that energy and how he's using it. Did that work? Oh. Since we're looking at the solar angel, let's look at the five-pointed star in his chart. Remember Lawson told us yesterday all about quintiles? Look at them in Francis's chart. He has 4 of the 5 points for a five-pointed star. It's not that big deal that he's missing one. Transits happen all the time. You know, the moon goes through every sign once a month. The sun and all of its little contingent goes through once a year. Lots of chances. The point that he's missing is 18 Taurus. And guess where Jupiter is today? Remember we saw that Yod in his other one, the solar angel? This actually has two golden Yods. They're the same as a Yod, kind of, except the quintile aspect is a little more friendly than the inconjuncts that were in the regular Yod. But he's got two of those that form the 4 points of his 5-pointed star here, his almost 5-pointed star that's there today because of transits. We could look at his progressions too, but I didn't get those done. All right. One of the other things that I look at is not only how the chakras and rays are interacting, but I also do counts. And of course you do the count, just how many are in what, but then you weight it based on the importance of what we've got. As Michael mentioned, you would suspect that Ray 4 would be strong in Francis's chart. And sure it is. Right there. So is Ray 1 and the 6th ray. There's a lot of spiritualism and devotion that comes through in his artwork. I think the surprise to me, maybe to Francis too, was look at that 5th ray puppy. But we see that in the technical accuracy and symbolism that's imbued in every single one of his pictures that he does, and the text that accompanies them. I'm blown away by the picture, and then again by the text that he gives us. All right, moving on to the chakras. You guys have all seen this or something similar to it, you know, the older versions of it that they've used for years where they've associated, you know, which signs, which planets go with the chakras. You know, basically you've got the spine and then the diaphragm, and you're supposed to raise the ones below the diaphragm to the ones above the diaphragm. Well, when you put the rays in the picture, it changes things a little bit. They bring in different energies. They bring in different signs. They bring in different planets. So not only do we have the raising from below the diaphragm to above the diaphragm, but now you also have things like raising the energy of the rulers by mastering the higher characteristics of the ray rulers, expressing the higher characteristics of these new signs, working from the balanced center of the crosses that relate to the rays and chakras rather than the extremes. And then you still have raising the lower chakra to the higher chakra, but now you're doing it through the rays of attribute to the rays of aspect. I got a lot of Virgo in me. I do charts. Show me, show me. So here we have the relationship of the rays of aspect and the relationship of the rays of attribute. So, everything I've talked about, showed you a couple of charts, a couple of things there. That's just putting it all together, looking at all of the aspects, looking at the configurations, looking at the crosses and how they interact in the chart, how the chakras relate to that. We saw that the fixed cross was very independent with Taurus and Scorpio and the root and fourth ray, but the Leo Aquarius is the Ajna center. That's still part of the fixed cross, but now it's the Ajna, and that one works to direct all of them. So let's look at his fixed cross again. As I mentioned earlier, with all crosses, the goal is to find your way to the center and wielding all four energies in synergy with your soul controlling the hub. Now let's look at it in my little chart form. He's got that ascendant, descendant axis squaring the IC-MC here. He's got all three fire signs for a grand fire trine here in these chakras. Both Ray 1 rulers are present in one or another of the signs here. Also, one of the Ray 4 rulers, Mercury, is there. And all 6 of the signs, those were the Ray rulers, all 6 of the signs also have at least one Ray, one ruler present. Esoteric, exoteric. So he's got a lot of activity in that fixed cross. Wasn't enough that he had that 5-pointed star, or almost 5-pointed star. He also has a quintile kite. He just loved those quintiles. Quintiles are, you know, a talent or a spiritual ability. I guess he needed that this life for the work he wanted to do.
Works quintile kite.
It's the axis and then 2 biquintiles and then 2 quintiles, right, that form the kite. And so here, this is his Sun-Earth axis, but it's helped out by Neptune and Pallas. This is Ray 2 and Ray 6 working together in the mutable cross. And that was Neptune, the sacred ruler of the 6th ray, and Pallas, which I've seen indications for the 2nd ray. And again, the purpose of this is to raise the 6th to the 2nd. So he's got all of his little helpers there. And all these configurations that magically came to being.
When you relate these different planets, which are sort of the either the rulers of or in the different ray triangles, this will give an indication as to how the lifting of the energy can better occur?
My assumption is that it's all part of a process that takes many lives, but working on it this way, like as many planets as he's got in here. I mean, he had a lot in the fixed and a lot here, but it shows the work that he's doing with these 2 rays and the correlation with the rays, especially if a ruler is in another ray's, I don't know if he's got that, but like
Mars is in Virgo.
Jupiter's in Sagittarius where it belongs. Mercury is in Sagittarius, and that's a Ray 6 sign, but the Gemini, you know, it's the ruler of Gemini up there in Ray 2. So these are interactions that help facilitate the raising and the interaction between these two and the entire mutable cross. That's the point I'm trying to make. He's got a cardinal cross. This one's a little wide, but everything plays nicely in his chart. So he's got Ceres over there that takes Venus and brings it in line with Vesta through his part of spirit there. So they act as a translator of light to bring the other ones in. It's kind of like his almost five-pointed star. You know, it's not pristine, but sometimes the more pristine things in our chart we take for granted. The things that are almost or off kilter just a tad are the ones that irritate us enough to work more on them. And of course, this is it in tabulation form. Again, I think of this, because it is wide, I think of it as an indication of how subtle these chakras and rays are in his chart. There aren't any ray rulers present here. They were all accounted for in all the other. None of them left here, except Venus, the hierarchical ruler of Capricorn.
Tell about the prognosis of the process by looking at these relationships.
I don't know if I can actually, I wouldn't go that far. I would just say to Francis, this is energy that's available in his chart. And then, of course, the transits and progressions are going to hit things off on that. And they're going to stimulate things. It's like everything else. It's the potential, it's the opportunity,
And it's
but
so
whether
much,
he takes advantage of it or not.
and it so much depends, I mean, because we can't possibly be at all three stages at the same time with equal intensity.
Right, exactly. And I think we see that. Number one, these aren't actually the stages. These are working at the stage that he is right now, working within all of the signs within his chart, okay? There's definitely a focus, more so than anything I would say in the fixed cross here. But the other ones all have their purpose. And the higher vibration of the esoteric rulers, the hierarchical rulers, and the higher energies of the signs are all there potentially for him to do in the work that he does. This guy loved configurations, you know. He was standing in line right before he was being born saying, He has two facing grand trines, an air and a fire, that exactly position themselves over each other. And I don't know how many of you guys have looked at the Star of David, but it's got more configurations in it than Carter has little liver pills. Is that dating me? Y'all saw that quintile kite, right? Well, he has 6 kites here because every single part of the trine, all right, here's one kite right up here at the top with the earth. You guys see that, how that goes down? And every single point is part of one. So he's got 6 kites there. Then he has 3 mystic rectangles. And that's just by nature of a 6-pointed star. But all of those puppies merge together, and the aspects of all of them, I mean, we could sit down and go through the laundry list of them, but we'd be here forever, and Michael said I only had 45 minutes. When I think of a kite, I think of the chart at the beginning of Initiation Human and Solar. You know which one I'm talking about, the hierarchical chart that looks like a big kite there? So I think of a regular kite, just one, as being downward communication from the soul. When you got 6 of them, it's upward and downward. You know, it's an open communication. And this is the Ray 5, the Ajna, and how it's working through his 6-pointed star, which has his ascendant in it, and his sun, how it's working to facilitate the work of raising the other rays of attribute to the rays of aspect. Ray 1 is connected to Ray 5 through his Leo sun. Ray 4 is connected to Ray 5 through his Sagittarius ascendant. And all 3 are connected by the fixed cross. But just in case you missed it, the cardinal cross overlays the 6-pointed star. The fixed cross overlays the 6-pointed star. So they're all working together in concert.
This is a highly geometrical chart. What would, BL, how can a person be proactive when they see these configurations? In other words, suppose they want to deliberately aid in the process of elevation and transmutation, and they see these connections. What do you think they can do about it?
They can work around the transits for them. I mean, you can literally sit down and figure out, like the missing point in his 5-pointed star. Okay, Jupiter's there now, but the sun is always going to be there in Taurus in a couple of weeks. So, you know, every May he can look at doing things that will facilitate the work of the 5-pointed star. With a 6-pointed star, with all of these connections, it's like every day. But you just find the transits and progressions, you find the time, you look at the energy and decide how are you using it? Are you using it at the lower aspect when you could be using it at the higher aspect? It's pretty much the same things everybody else has been talking about, but now you're doing it in concert with your chart as an active part.
Yeah. So you're sort of kind of planning a building process in a way, but you have to know what you can build at any one time. What is DK?
Well, you have to know what your foundation is.
Yeah. Yes. Well, you know he talks about the triangles of spirit, the stars of consciousness, and the squares of, what is it, karma or materiality or matter? Mm-hmm. Yeah, he says the charts of the masters, or how they look at things, are based on those 3 things: triangles, stars, and squares.
Yeah, but those are 3, 4, 5-dimensional charts that turn in on each other, and they're so completely different than this. But we have to work with the material that we have, with the senses that we have.
Seems like a good start, though, you know.
Yeah, I think it's a good way of looking at it. There's more things there that you wouldn't necessarily notice if you didn't try and put it in some kind of context like this. Do any of the other astrologers want to weigh in on?
Philip? Oh. Well, it's so interesting. Go ahead, Peter. Say something.
I was going to ask you about grade 5, but you couldn't write it. As soon as I thought.
Oh.
About the fixed cross, how do you see that with rays? It is sort of unusual that it's included in the fifth ray, and they both synthesize in the first.
Well, eventually they both have to go up somewhere. The fourth, there are other correlations than the one that I mentioned, okay? These ones are just specifically in correlation to this, and there is in fact a reference in EP1 that gives this particular lineup, okay? But the fifth ray kind of facilitates all of it. And the first ray is the crown, and the fifth ray is the ajna, and they're both head centers. So, you know, that was the correlation I was making there. But on the fixed cross, it's definitely, you know, the Aquarius Leo axis that you've got there, and the Scorpio Taurus axis. So.
You know, this is such a highly integrated chart. You kind of, is not the Ajna Center, which seems to be receiving so much weight, I'm not exactly sure how you weighted these things, you know, like astrodynes or something?
Right. No, and I can actually tell you about my weightings a little bit. I look at the important planets esoterically. And so I give the ascendant, because it is the soul, I give it 15 points. I give the sun 10 points, because that's the personality that we're trying to integrate into the sun. I give sacred planets 6 points, non-sacred planets 4 points. Neptune I give 8 points, because it's the heart of the sun. And this is the disciple who is supposed to be working towards the heart of the sun. Actually, maybe I didn't say that. I'm assuming that this person is at or about the first initiation, working, when I do charts like this, working towards, you know, the fixed cross, that's primarily where they're working. That someone would not come to me and ask for an esoteric chart reading if they weren't at that level. And someone that was above it, working on the cardinal cross, already knows their stuff. So anyway, then Chiron I give 2 points. The asteroids I give 1 point. The descendant I give 2 points. The midheaven 3 points. The nadir 2 points. The north node 2, south 1. Part of fortune 3, and the spirit 2. Then, after I've done that, I'll go through, and in my exoteric counts, I'll subtract a point if it's detriment or fall. But I will not do that. I will add on the esoteric side, because all of everything he tells us in esoteric astrology about the falls are that you've done your work and now you can move on without that impediment. So I don't do that. Also, I take away a point exoterically for the opposite, because traditionally they're at war with each other, but I add a point for it being in the opposite sign esoterically, because the object is to merge the axis. So that's how I compute my weights. That's my weighting system.
And of course, it's somewhat based upon your own choice of what to attribute to these different points. Have you tested it out a bit?
I have. This is actually my newer version. I went with less complicated for many years.
Yeah. Well, I think it would be very interesting to test it out with different people, you know, who are on the path, and see.
Any volunteers?
Well, okay. Ellen is volunteering right there, you know.
Yes.
You know, in Esoteric Astrology, in page about 36, we have a particular relationships that Leo go to Capricorn, Virgo.
Yes, yes.
Did you find in these structures and these relationships any kind of correlation, or have you looked at it?
I have looked at it, but only superficially. And I don't believe I did find initially, and so I set it aside.
Yeah, because you know, the relationships are based basically on 7 aspects there, I think.
I'll have to look at it closer.
Yeah, okay. That was one of my first question. And the second one, hypothesizing that we could have, through each sign, going 3 rays. How would that theory correlate with this?
Well, it'd have to be changed to add all of that into it. And it'd be interesting to look at what those correlations are. My objective in the charts that I do is to keep it as simple as possible. I know that didn't look like that, but you know, because my audience is a newer crowd to esoteric astrology. I try and bring out the energies for them,
Yeah.
but there is so much in esoteric astrology and the related books that you can get into, and you can go off on different tangents, and everything does multiple duty.
Yeah.
But yeah, that would
And
be...
everything is a process, you see.
Yeah.
But, you know, we have a lot of hints that each sign could have 3 rays.
Well, that would be quite interesting to,
Yes.
to plug into.
That would maybe even more, you know, enlarge your picture there
Yes.
with the
yes.
different triangles or squares or whatever,
You two ought to get
and
together.
add more.
Spreadsheets are my friend.
You know, one of the things that Ellen has said, when you're dealing with these triangles, he gives you one sign through which the majority of the ray reaches the earth or humanity.
Right,
It's
right.
a bit stronger. Maybe he gives you another one which is less strong at the particular time. And that might enter a weighting system as well. You know, when you, it really could. BL, why don't you tell us what you think your ray, wait a second, hold on. What rays do you detect? You detect 5? Okay. Okay, what else? 2, 7. Okay. All of us are drawing a blank. What is your current ray hypothesis, BL?
Well, it depends on whether I'm talking to you or Lonnie. I mean,
talk to me.
mine is that I may actually possibly almost have a ray 1 monad that I'm just barely getting inklings of. Someone disagrees with that, thinks it could be ray 3. I think that I have a ray 2 soul and that I have just either completed or I'm in the process of moving from a legacy ray 6 to a ray 2 soul. I think that I have a ray 5 personality, but Lonnie just did that study that she did, and she basically has said, no, it doesn't show up as a ray 5, consider ray 1.
Oh, you mean Leone?
Yeah.
Leone.
Yeah. Am
Uh-huh.
I saying her name wrong?
Okay.
But I think it's ray 5. And then mental, probably 3. Physical, 3. Astral, 6. Yeah.
Okay, so there is some ray 5, eh?
No 4. I have no ray 4 in me.
Well, just hang out with this crowd for a while. Do we have any other questions for BL? It's a very provocative idea, you know, to look at the chakra exchange that is going on for all of us and to see if some of these configurations can help us facilitate that process. I mean, most of us, I think, are busy with the solar plexus to the heart, you know, having completely mastered the sacral to the throat. As for the base of the spine to the crown center, well, you know, that is completed by the 5th initiation. Nicholas, do you have a thought?
Always.
You want me to put that back up?
No, just a question of, you were using the asteroids here
Yes.
in this example. How important do you find them to be in this kind of research?
I do. I find them to be important. I don't give them more than a point, but I find them to be important. You know, I'm from the school of studying everything traditionally first, and I got a hold of that Demetria George and somebody else's book on the asteroid goddesses, and it just really clicked when I read that you know, the 4 helpers of Venus, and I've kind of recently come into thinking of them as the four freedoms, the different parts of the four freedoms. And I do find them. Of course, the more things that you put in a chart, then the more aspects you're going to find. So that also helps. But I do think that they are important. And then, of course, I use Chiron. I actually tried including for a long time, a couple of years, Sedna, Eris, Astrea, Haumea, not real good at saying that, Makemake. And I thought that was interesting. Of course, most of those are way out there and they don't move hardly any, but it gave me stuff in Aries for the first time.
Another question for you, just to fixate at least my mind as to what you are doing there. So if I would like to, through your research, find out more about the relation of, for example, solar plexus and heart, what signs would I be looking at in my horoscope?
Well, you look at the planets that you have in those rays. In the solar plexus, the 6, and so the Virgo, Pisces, and Sagittarius, and see how they're working and how they interact. I look at the interactions of the configurations and the rulers, and that tells me how they interact together. Whether they're working, is it squares, is it trines, is it the axis, are they working well together or not? That's the only way I look at it.
Okay.
So, and I try hard not to present my opinions to other people on how they're working, because I think it's important that they read whatever they can into it, and that they determine how they're working with it and what they need to fix, or what they can strengthen.
Facilitating that, yes.
Yeah. I'm giving them the information, letting them do with it.
Good. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you, BL, for this presentation.